In our world, risk management isn't just about plans or frameworks, it's about the people behind them. The thinkers, the problem solvers, the one who turn uncertainty into clarity and risk into opportunities. Hi, my name is Musaf Fagiri, and this is ISRM Voices, where we each month spotlight a member of the Institute of Strategic Risk Management, professionals who are shaping the future of risk management. And today, I'm honored to introduce our first guest, joining us from Montreal, Camille Mc Innis, a member of the ISRM Canadian chapter and a co-founder of Cygnus Strategies. Camille is a rising leader who specializes in crisis management, incident response, and business continuity. Hello, Camille, and thank you for joining us today.
Musab, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, let's start simple, Camille. When you're not in crisis mode, who is Camille behind the scene?
That's a good one. I would say that when I'm not in crisis mode, I'm a very curious person, sometimes a little bit too much. I like to learn new things. I like to build things and to create as much as I can and as often as I possibly can as well. Um, I do like to solve complex problems, but in my downtime, I would say that you'll find me spending time outdoors, lifting weights at the gym or with my close friends and my family. So, besides that, I would say that I do consume, very passionate about podcasts and content that is available on different platforms, such as Masterclass. I like reading a lot too. And I would say that I feel actually very grateful nowadays that all those platforms do offer very high quality content and that it's so accessible. So I do find that you can learn about everything and it's great.
What you said about reading, working out, exercising, it is great. Working in this field can be stressful, and it's important for us to take care of both mind and body. Let's go back a bit. What made you realize that this line of work, risk management, is the work that you wanted to do? Was there perhaps a person, mentor, or a turning point in your life that made you or sets you on this path?
I would say that perhaps the aha moment took place a very, very long time ago. So I'm taking you with me, Musab. We're taking a walk down memory lane. Probably happened when I was in elementary school when 9/11 happened. I remember exactly where I was, the class I was in. Everybody was very anxious. There was a lot of tension, obviously. And I feel like I really wanted to understand what happened there. And when I grew, I think that it became a trend where I needed to understand. And I was very drawn to those situations that were high risk or unfamiliar. And when it was time to decide in which program I wanted to go in university, I decided to go in the Bachelor in Security and Police Studies at Université Montréal here in Quebec. Um, and I found that, it really helped me uh, to understand why people do things like that, why they happen, and how we can actively um, work to prevent events such as this one and mitigate the risks that are associated with them. I can probably say it like that. I was fortunate enough to start my career in emergency management at the Government of Canada. I had the chance to do an internship at ICAO in the my early 20s, and where I learned so much and I saw firsthand how thoughtful planning can prevent harm. It also can empower teams to react in an adequate fashion when put under stress and under pressure. And I really like the human aspect of crisis management because at the end of the day, that really is what is important. That is what anchors me because protecting lives is what matters the most.
That's powerful. I think 9/11 shaped an entire new generation of professionals and pushed us all to ask a lot of questions about risk, preparedness, and response. Let's talk about your education now. You study criminology and law, so I'm very curious about the law part here. Uh, how has studying law affected the way you deal with risk in the real world?
It's a very good question. I think both criminology and law school really allowed me to build a complementary set of tools. I think that, you know, if we're talking, let's say, about like specifically about law, it for sure has shaped my approach to things and the way that my reasoning when I approach a problem. So I'm perhaps a little bit more cautious, and I feel like I'm constantly thinking about what is the immediate impact on putting in place a protocol or program or whatever it is that we're implementing. The immediate impact, long-term impact. And I think that it's always, in the back of my mind to consider, okay, what are my obligations? What are my clients' obligations? And how in any given situation? So how can we approach things to make them as efficient as possible? And for sure, understanding concepts such as fault, liability, or here what we have in Quebec, le devoir de prudence, de diligence. I think that, for sure has shaped the way that I see accountability, not just during the crisis, but well after the crisis. And like I said, at the end of the day, that's a very complementary tool in my toolkit. That being said, I want to really clarify that I am not a member of Le Barreau du Québec, therefore I cannot provide any legal opinions. But that being said, I always have in the back of my mind questions that are not necessarily directly aligned with just security. So I'll also think about perhaps privacy or, documentation, proportionality, and at the end of the day, I do hope that that tool allows me to be perhaps a more thoughtful uh, risk manager and risk professional.
This is a unique blend of legal thinking and risk analysis. And I believe we can build a very strong system with this kind of thinking. We are shifting gears now to community. You have been an active member of ISRM Canadian chapter. What something that you valued or you gained or you simply enjoyed being part of this group?
So I'm so grateful to be a part of ISRM. I think that we have here in Canada a fantastic group of dedicated professional. It's I find a very tight-knit a community of like-minded people who enjoy having conversations, sharing ideas, sharing their different perspectives, looking at a problem from different angle. So I would say that perhaps I really enjoy that think tank portion of the group. Um, I think that also from a more, at a more macro and global perspective, I often find myself going in the trap of reading the same, news articles coming from the same sources or watching the same shows, and we often end up in an echo chamber, right? So I really like being a part of the ISRN community because I'm able to have access to the very good quality content that it is that they produce, and therefore I can add this very credible and trusted source to the variety of information that I do consume. And it gives me another perspective, right? Sometimes every time I read a report, I learn something for sure. And I think that it's very important nowadays in order to have a much more global and integrated perspective to really diversify the sources where you take your information from.
I'm glad that you see a value in ISRM. Before we wrap it up here, If you could beam one thing into the mind of young professionals entering this field, what would it be?
It's really funny that you talk about that right now because I had a similar conversation with a colleague this morning, and you were talking about the importance of, emotional intelligence and having empathy. And I have to say, I find that too often in, your traditional studies or in universities or whatnot, they don't really talk about those things. It's not part of the curses, and they don't, or not enough. We don't talk about those things enough, but it will really make a big difference, especially for, a risk professional, because your soft skills, even though your technical skills are very, very important, your soft skills are going to allow you to navigate the world, right? So in order to gain trust, in order to lead under pressure, or to, act well or navigate adequately conflict, you need those soft skills. And, again, like I said, traditional studies, I find that too often they really neglect or do skip that part of learning. And a great manager is not someone who necessarily had straight A's in university, right? So it's what will make the difference. It's who they are as a human being, how they do treat others, and how they make others feel. Because at the end of the day, we'll always remember how someone made us feel, especially in tough times. And that's why I think that it's so important to be human, and to have empathy when things get very hard.
Camille, thank you for sharing your insights, your journey, and your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Musab. It's always a pleasure to see you. Take care and have a great day.
To everybody watching, if you want to keep this conversation going, you can connect with Camille on LinkedIn. And please don't forget to follow ISRM Canada chapter on LinkedIn for future episodes and updates. Until next time, this is Masaf Fagiri. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay ready.